Good evening, everybody. How you doing? This is John. It's as you can see, we're getting into the late evening here. Just pausing to record this video. Had a good day today, which is always nice to say. It's always nice to say you had a good day. Pretty tired, but you know, that's getting older and that's life. You get tired. Today, man. Oh boy, did I ever make a big mistake today. It started yesterday, so I guess I made a big mistake yesterday, and today I'm paying for it. So, Joe Rogan had Ben Shapiro on his podcast. And I don't know what it is about Ben Shapiro, but like, I just can't not listen to that guy. Like, I know he's a fraud and an idiot, a liar, and definitely, like, he's the bigot's smart man, right? If you're a bigot, which is that you have made the largest intellectual, like, mistake that you possibly can, then sure, Ben Shapiro sounds really smart. But if you're not a bigot, everything that comes out of Ben Shapiro's mouth sounds extremely stupid. Like, extremely stupid. Because he is extremely stupid. And there's just this, like, one, and it is like a tiny, like, on the side kind of point that he continuously will bring up that, in my view, really shines a light on the level of stupidity that we're talking about, right? If you guys don't know who Ben Shapiro is, right? Ben Shapiro is like a media mogul on the right. The alt-right really likes this guy, obviously, because he's a bigot. And and basically he's just a rich kid's son who went to Harvard, and has just essentially used his dad's money to build a media empire for himself, because if you have millions of dollars, you can do what you want. And because no one else is willing to be as openly bigoted and racist as him, he galvanizes an audience towards him that is, you know, as bigoted as he is. And so he goes on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I consider Joe Rogan to be like middle of the road, just sort of average man, right? He has complex ideas. Like, he attracts many different types of people because he seems just like a genuine man who's willing to listen to ideas and hash them out and think about them as ideas, instead of having just like a strict ideological bent that he defers to. And that by itself, I think, is admirable, right? You can disagree with him if you'd like. And I do disagree with Joe Rogan on several things, but I think that he is genuine in his pursuit of the truth of those things, as opposed to simply parroting what he thinks his team should say, or what his team does say, rather. And that's the difference between Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro. And Joe Rogan's not afraid to have a man like Ben Shapiro on, because Joe believes that talk and conversation is what illuminates things. And the more you hear Ben Shapiro talk, the more you realize that Jesus is this guy a bigot. But more important than that, boy, do you realize he's an idiot. And nothing illustrates that point more than when he continuously says people who live in poor neighborhoods should just move out of those neighborhoods. Now, I can't imagine a stupider thing to say than people who live in poor neighborhoods should just move out of those neighborhoods. That's like saying people who have no money should just buy better clothes, right? That's like saying, well, if you don't have money for food, you should just go buy food. It's on that kind of level of absolute asinine stupidity Like, these people are poor because they don't have money and they don't have anything. They're in that position because, and let's talk specifically about black people in the United States, because black people in the United States were left out of the project of prosperity that white Americans were permitted to have, which is that they got cheap or free land given to them, which they were then able to grow the equity of and pass on to their children, who then in turn turned around and passed it on to their children. Whereas the black community was left out of that. They did not receive the cheap land. They did not receive the free land, right? They have constantly been in a state of selling their labor for capital, which then they exchange for food and shelter. And so they're left with nothing, right? They have nothing that they can grow over time and generationally. It just doesn't happen for black Americans because they were left out of the project of prosperity. And so when Shapiro says, oh, well, they should just move out of those poor neighborhoods to better neighborhoods, it's a fundamentally stupid thing to say. A person with no money should buy a $500,000 house. A person with no money should buy a $100,000 house. A person with no money and no job should buy a $50,000 house. I just think you have to be like forget about ideology. Like forget about anything. Just the brass tacks of it. To just say out loud that a person with no money should spend money is, on the face of it, ludicrous and stupid. And the reason why Shapiro says these things out loud, unironically, and as if it's an intelligent thing to say, is because his religious bigotry and ideology has led him to this absolutely asinine and stupid conclusion that can be shown as childishly dumb with a sentence. People with no money cannot spend money. It's very simple. It's very simple. People with no money cannot spend money. They will not be able to borrow money because people with no money and no leverage cannot borrow money, right? It's a fundamentally stupid position to take, and Shapiro will throw it out all the time. And it's consistently unchallenged, even though it's an incredibly stupid thing to say. So stupid that it discredits him as a thinker across the board, in my opinion. I mean, there are many things that discredit Shapiro, but this seems to be the one that doesn't get any pushback. No one says, hey, that's stupid. People with no money can't spend money. What are you talking about? They should move. Is moving free? Moving is free now. Oh, I didn't realize that moving was a free thing that free people could do. That people with no money could do, right? I didn't realize that you could just go somewhere and that was something that was free. That's stupid. I've moved a lot in my life. I've moved out to the East Coast. I've moved to Toronto. I've moved back to my hometown. I've moved to Ottawa. I've moved back to Toronto, right? I've moved a lot. It's pricey. It costs money. You have to save for it. And it's a huge risk every time you do it. It's a massive risk, especially because when you move, right? First of all, you're spending all your money, right? Anything you've got saved up to do it. And you're likely moving to a place where you don't know anybody and you have no support system. So it's incredibly risky. It's an incredibly risky thing to do. And to tell people who are like 40 even or 50, oh yeah, just move to a better place. Boy, are you stupid. Boy, are you stupid. Like that's real lowball dumb. And then Shapiro will back up this absolutely asinine claim with, well, at some point there needs to be personal accountability. Um, I mean, I definitely agree with that. But Shapiro is so dumb and so detached from reality. Uh, he has a silver spoon lodged so far up his asshole that he can't even begin to comprehend what it is to live in a situation where a third, let's say, of the population around you lives in poverty, right? Like places like Camden, right? A third of the population lives in poverty. That's in America. And if a third of the population around you lives in poverty, right? Uh, Being personally accountable means that you do your best in that environment. Doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to become this enormous businessman or any of that kind of stuff. It means that you're barely getting by and surviving with whatever shred of dignity you can have, right? That's what it would mean to be personally accountable in that environment, right? But because Ben Shapiro is a bigot and he doesn't respect people who live in poverty, and he doesn't respect that the system that we live under has generated an environment that creates that poverty, uh, and because he has such a high level of bigotry towards people who live in poverty, because he was born rich and he doesn't understand anything other than that, uh, the he can't actually see or understand that the people who are living in poverty are doing what he recommends. They are doing it. They are standing up. They are pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. They are uh, uh, fighting their good fight. They are putting in their personal accountability. They are working as hard as they possibly can, day by day. It's simply that Ben Shapiro does not respect them and does not respect the work that they do and does not respect the environment that they live in, because he is an out-of-touch bigot and doesn't know anything other than, he was born rich and has been rich his whole life. My challenge to Ben Shapiro would be very simple. Be poor for 1 year. He's an enormous coward. Like, he's an enormous coward. He doesn't have a shred of bravery inside of him, because it's tough. It's braver to be compassionate and empathetic towards other people than it is to look down on them. That's super easy. Anyone can do that. It's much braver and much more difficult to take the position of the other person and to live in someone else's shoes, right? To walk a mile in their shoes. Or to put it in religious terms that maybe Ben Shapiro forgot to read in his book, although he's a Jew, so it's not, I mean, Jesus says that you should love your neighbor as yourself, right? I mean, it's right there. It's pretty easy, but pretty simple. It's just like one more book. I mean, or if you prefer Moses, right? Moses said that the law is irrelevant without love, right? You can go ahead and read it, right? I love that these guys, they always bring up these Old Testament laws, but they'll completely omit it when Moses says these laws are irrelevant without love. And Ben Shapiro has no love. He's a bigot. He despises the poor. He despises people who are not his color or race. He despises people who are not of his sexual orientation. Fundamentally, he despises anyone who isn't him, right? Because he's just he's just a regular narcissist, right? This guy actually said out loud that he thought he was smarter than his professors at Harvard, right? That means you're a narcissist, right? That means that, first of all, you're definitely wrong. Like, that's a very stupid thing to say. And the idea that a narcissist on that kind of level would care about anyone other than himself, right? Of course he doesn't. Of course he thinks that poor people just need to be personally accountable, right? Forget about history or the situation they live in. But And forget about the fact that they are being personally accountable, right? I guarantee it, that every single person who lives in Camden, New Jersey is being personally accountable to the situation that they live in and are doing the best that they possibly can. That's a guarantee. It's just that Ben Shapiro doesn't respect them. And simple, he's a religious bigot. Here's another thing that I really love about Ben Shapiro, right? I'd really love to ask, if I had one question to ask Ben Shapiro, yeah, little music break. Here's the one question that I would ask Ben Shapiro. So he's been very open on his first appearance on the Joe Rogan Report. He said that he thought being homosexual was wrong, and it says so in Deuteronomy, right? It says being homosexual is wrong, and so there's a religious backing and a religious argument to why homosexuality is wrong. So my question to Ben Shapiro would 100% be, why don't you support the stoning of the homosexuals? Because if you go one more chapter, the Bible says homosexuality is an abomination, right? That's Deuteronomy. And if you go one more chapter, it then says the punishment for homosexuality is stoning, public stoning at that. And so if, as Ben Shapiro believes, the Bible is this pure document that needs to be taken on faith and is something that we should treat above logic and reason, which he has also stated as the way he views the world, then why is he not supporting the stoning of homosexuals? Or does he support the stoning of homosexuals? Because the book says that that's what we should be doing with homosexuals. And so when I suspect, right, that when Ben Shapiro omits that from the conversation, because he doesn't want to be put in the uncomfortable position of having to choose between a book that was written by nomads wandering a desert several thousand years ago, or or logic and reason, right? Because if his book is this holy document that you have to follow and live in the world with and all of this, then he should support the stoning of homosexuals. But if it isn't, then he should shut his mouth. And I think that that's generally just good advice for Ben Shapiro, who is just a rich, snotty brat and an idiot, who actually doesn't think through the things that he says, because he's going to say something like, people who have no money should just spend money and move to places that take money to live in. And then they would have money, because they have to spend money, but they don't have money, right? Ben Shapiro is stupid. Just at the end of the day, he's a bigot, obviously, and he's extremely, extremely, extremely stupid. The reason why he gets by is that he's extremely confident in his stupidity. And so no one feels right simply calling him an idiot, because that is what he is. All right. Well, this was fun to record. I hope you guys had fun listening to it. Like, share, subscribe if you made it to the end. Like, share, subscribe. I've been told by multiple people that I should be saying that because, I don't know, trying to spread this around. Keep fighting the good fight. Jimmy Dore said today on his podcast that there are no leftist YouTubers. Hi, Jimmy. Hi. I hope one day I can meet you, and not as a fan, but as a peer. Good luck.